You feeling the vibe?
Yes, now.
Marxman is gonna keep the vibe going. Hey.
Planet X. It's the only way to start your weekend. Marxman and the Planet X crew are serving it up hot and fresh.
Man, it's getting too hot.
Just the way you like it. The Planet X Wake Up Show every Friday morning on Vibe 105.
Locked on to Vibe 105, the Planet X Wake Up Show, with a very, 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 very special guest on the inside. He is no stranger to Toronto, no stranger to Vibe 105, as a matter of fact. So good morning to Chin of Irish and Chin Productions.
Thanks for having me, man.
How's everything going?
It's going, man. It's going. Feels like we've been at it for months and years, but it's actually down to the wire. Tomorrow, of course, World Clash hits Canada for the first time in over a decade.
Yes. It's an honor. It was a really big deal when I saw this.
It's an honor for us to actually be here and share the World Clash vibe once again, and a new vision that we have for the whole World Clash brand with Canada. It's a nice place to kick off this new World Clash concept that we have. So we're really, really excited to see what's going to take place tomorrow.
Amazing. So now there's a lot of listeners on the outside. Some of them are hardcore Clash fans. We have a lot of diverse listeners that listen to Vibe 105. Some of them not so hardcore. Some of them that might not even know what Sound Clash is. So you're a man that has really put Sound Clash on your back, and you could definitely answer the question, explaining to the Planet X and Vibe 105 listeners what Sound Clash really is and where it started and came from.
Wow, Sound Clash is probably the oldest art form in our musical culture in Jamaica, right? That has spread throughout the decades all over the world, and it's pretty much, it has a nice, rich structural history. When you're speaking of Sound Clash, you're speaking of the fact that once upon a time in Jamaica, radio stations wouldn't play certain music, right? And a lot of that music was considered dance hall music, you know how it is. It's probably like that in most Caribbean islands, where there is certain music that's loved by the masses, but the radio stations weren't playing them. Mm-hmm. And in order to get these musics out to the general public, what happens was that the producers started to build sound systems, right? Okay. So they couldn't get the music played on the radio, so they started to build physical sound systems and
like actual speaker boxes
and amps and stuff, and started to kind of network their way through the island, you know what I mean, playing at various parties and various bars and whatever they had to do to get out their recordings to the masses, right? In getting their recordings to the masses, what they also were doing at the same time, and I don't think it was even intentionally, they was also introducing new artists and new creations to the general public in Jamaica, right? So what happened in the matter of time was that sound systems and artists became like a team.
Okay.
In which where, the DJs would travel the island and the artists would appear on these sound systems. Now, mind you, that at the time, none of these artists was being played on the radio.
Exactly. So there were mobile radio stations, essentially.
Mobile radio stations are dealing to the masses, right? Yes. The dance hall, as what we call it now, we look at dance hall as a genre. Back in the early days, dance hall was a space. It was the venue, and that's where the terminology comes from. There were certain things that was played in the dance hall.
Okay.
That was not played on the radio or other places. So these days we identify maybe Beanie Man, Shabba, all of the top artists as dance hall. But back in those days, it just meant the music that was played in that dance hall space, right? You fast forward over a period of time, what generally started to happen is these sound teams became so big that they started to compete against each other.
Okay.
So you may have a studio and you have, a couple of great artists and your thing is getting a lot of attraction. And then I have also a studio and I have a different set of artists and I'm making a different set of music and it's also getting a lot of attraction. And this is the birth of the Sound Clash culture. You know what I mean? Because studios started to compete in the dancehall space against each other to show which studio had the best team.
And artists were specific to one sound.
Yes. At the time, you would not, go and see, and we can take it as far back as possible, but you would not go and see certain artists around other sound systems. They were restricted to one sound system. So when that DJ played, as many of you will terminize it, right? Then you would see that artist. So if you look at it in the hip hop world, because the hip hop world follows the same exact pattern as what we the blueprint that was created in Jamaica. So you're looking at Eric B and Rakim.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Which it would be Eric B is the actual person who's playing the music, and Rakim is the toaster, right?
Yes.
He's the rapper, right? Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff, same thing. You know what I mean? It's that same culture where it's a DJ and an MC. You know, it's just in our Jamaican culture and our West Indian culture, it was a DJ and multiple MCs. Yes. You know what I mean? Singers, people who sung over rhythms, and people who also DJ'd over rhythms. So this is the actual beginning of this sound system culture, you know, and we see it go through a lot of changes as it evolves and goes through history until where we are now. But we still have to salute the early pace setters.
Foundation.
Yeah, the foundations of it. And actually the foundations of it was that hardcore, you know, wanting to expose the culture. Like, I don't think 30, 40 years ago we ever thought that we would have dancehall on Billboard charts.
Yes.
We wouldn't think that we would have
Worldwide
Grammy
phenomenon.
artists, Jamaican Grammy artists from the dancehall. But it all started from the sound system culture. Many people don't, make that connection, but the sound system culture has been the glue throughout our music for decades and decades to come.
Nate, tell me some of these big artists you're talking about, dancehall artists, just regular artists in
Dancehall
general,
artists,
that have been in sound system.
you're talking about, the great Shabba Ranks. You're talking about even Shaggy, who is probably the most selling reggae artist of all times, right? Up until this time. Sound system culture. You have the Josie Wales, you have the Tigers, you have the Yellow Man, who was like the first king of the dancehall. Anyone that you can think about, the Cocoa Teas, the Barrington Levy's, all of these artists had to somehow affiliate themselves with a sound that also represented a producer to get their music out there.
Some
of the songs that we think about, Sister Nancy, who is now this huge crossover artist from this Bam Bam thing that Jay-Z picked up, sound system culture. Tennessee, sound system culture. You name it. If you're coming from that early era of dance hall, it is sound system culture was your gateway.
Even Maxi Priest.
Maxi Priest came from a sound system called Saxon.
Yes.
Right? So everyone from that time was somehow related to a sound system. There was no radio play. Very few people were able to walk into the radio stations and get music
It was
played.
their way out, basically.
There's rumors of, we were just talking about this the other day. There's rumors of people like Bob Marley running the sound system circuit as well.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Going to the dance hall space to getting your music played in the dance. Because at that time, sound systems drew a massive amount of people because they were playing the unpopular music. So the popular music that was be playing on the radio wasn't the music that most people wanted to hear. People wanted to go to the dance hall space to enjoy the real vibe of it. And again, the dance hall later on took on this image as becoming a genre. But if you talk to the early pace setters, they will tell you that we're reggae. You know what I mean? Dancehall is reggae and reggae is reggae. You know what I mean? So it's what it is. But it is the basis of the culture of what we do today.
At what point did you decide that you were going to make Sound Clash your life?
Wow, that was a mistake. I'm really being honest with you. It was this huge mistake, right? So when it came to Sound Clash, like I have a partner, and his name is Irish, and that's where the name of the company Irish and Chin comes from, right? I grew up out of high school also wanting to be a sound boy because that's what we inspired to be as youths growing up, right? So I wanted to be a sound boy, and I wanted to be the sound boy that kills sounds, right? So what I'm doing today, promoting sound culture, it works for me because I used to be part of it, right? At the same time, across town, I had another gentleman, which turned out to be my partner, who was also doing the same thing. And we were supposed to actually clash against each other. So it was like a Queens, which where I'm from, in New York, and a Long Island, like kind of like a border clash thing.
Yeah.
And both of us couldn't agree on who should get paid what.
Okay.
So I wanted to get paid, and he wanted to keep the dance, and he thought that I was charging too much. And then when I wanted to keep the dance, he thought I was, vice versa. And we decided to just keep a dance. This was in 1997.
Okay.
We decided to just keep a dance, because we loved sound system culture and to celebrate sound system culture. And in keeping that dance, the birth of the Irish and Chin brand was born, right? This is right after what we refer to in the sound system culture as the Biltmore era, right?
Okay.
And for those of you who may not understand what the Biltmore era is, the Biltmore era is one of the rich periods in the 90s where Sound Clash was probably the most vibrant that it's ever been.
It was.
With so many superstars and so many sound teams that were doing major things. So after that calmed down in New York, because New York was the mecca for it, maybe a year later, we started this Irish and Chin thing. It was an era. It was just us trying to just have fun as kids. You know what I mean?
You almost just fell into it, basically.
And we fell into it, and we decided to ride the wave. And 2 years later, we created the World Clash brand.
Okay.
And the story is the story
History.
from now. So this year marks the 19th year of World Clash, which is a huge milestone for us, because next year we hit 20 years of the World Clash brand. There's no other brand in sound system entertainment that has lasted that long
and done as well as it has in that time.
Yes, I hear you telling your stories of coming to World Clash. And World Clash is, for those of you who may not understand, World Clash is the Grammy of the sound system culture, of
Yes.
the DJ culture. It is what every person who plays music inspires to win. Just to step on that stage means so much for your resume as a Caribbean DJ, dancehall DJ, right? It's the highest platform in our culture.
It is.
And winning is the ultimate. But just being able to compete on the stage makes you,
It has bust so many careers over the years. So many careers.
Yes. And it's gotten so much worldwide patronage, because I can remember, the years that you're talking about. I can remember people coming to World Clash with their suitcase.
Yeah.
Right from the airport. So someone would be coming in from the UK or someplace in Europe, someplace in Japan, and they'll land in New York City just in time to go come to World Clash. So I used to have to use the coat room to check in people's luggage and hold it for them. Yeah, like an airport, So that's how, vibrant this thing has been and how important it has been to our culture.
It definitely is. What's your thoughts on Sound Clash, where it's been, where it is now, and where it's going? I know that's a complicated question, but give me your vibe on that.
Where it's been, it's been in a good place for many years, because we wouldn't have some of the prominent artists that we have today without the sound system culture. Again, it goes hand in hand, right? These sound boys are the ones who really go out there and expose the new talent and expose the new music to the masses. So it's been in a good place for many years. Where it is now, it's in a period which I think it needs to be changed and needs to be upgraded and rejuvenized and re-energized, right? Where would I like for it to go? I would like for it to go where the new generation starts to come in and take it over. When we were going to these dances when we were younger, we were like 16, 17 trying to get into these Sound Clash events just to, enjoy them and just to keep the culture going on. We're not seeing a lot of that right now.
Yeah.
So it is time for us to make the necessary changes in order to get that vibe going,
It is. And it's complicated, I guess. It's just the way that this generation now takes in music. Back in the day, you had to go to the dance to know what tunes were busting, to hear those new dub plates, and now it's like you could sit home and listen on SoundCloud the next day.
Well, there's a lot of things that I think that it may be causing the disconnect with the sound system culture. One of the major things is that as the years go on, a lot of our children are not directly born in the Caribbean.
True.
They're second generation with different interests. So if you have a child that is now growing up in Canada, her parents are Caribbean, but their first love is hip hop or R&B, and that's what they're listening to 75% of the time, and maybe 25% of the time it's dancehall and reggae.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a difference from when we were growing up, where we didn't even want to listen to hip hop, so to speak. We wanted to be all a part of our culture. So in order to get the youngsters, the new generation of people to carry on this tradition that we have, this Caribbean tradition, because it has expanded from just being a Jamaican thing. Throughout the Caribbean, every single island has sound boys and sound teams and sound clashes are being held. We need to have the music and the entertainment also reflect the youth that we want to bring in. You know what I mean? So these are the changes that need to be made going forward in order for it to keep going.
So Sound Clash itself, by its very nature, is very confrontational. That's what it is. It's a musical, verbal confrontation
Yes,
on stage.
it is.
That has trickled down to yourself over the years, over this 20 years of doing World Clash and UK Cup and all those things. I've been on the message boards for years. I've been following
Yes.
you for years and years. And seeing the amount of flack you have taken, a lot of it unjustified.
Yes.
And I'll say that because as a businessman myself, a lot of times I sit back and I read these things and I'm like, do you guys think Chin as a businessman would really do XYZ? Like, use your head.
The crazy thing about our Sound Clash culture, right? And it's simply this, right? Before me, there was no one else that sat in my position, right? And it can be a very stressful position, but it can also be a very feared position, right? Because of what we have done and how fast we've been able to do it, you kind of have the power to dictate who goes through the gate and who does not go through the gate. You're not going to have a lot of friends in that position. It's just what it is. You know what I mean? So you have these chat rooms and these boards and, Clash fans will speak and other selectors will speak. And a lot of it comes from the fact that someone has too much power.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just what it is. You know what I mean? It's the fact that you have this power and you have now become a gateway. You have to understand this. When we came with this whole World Clash vision that we had, it was a change in the sound system culture. Straight. When we came into sound system culture, sound competitions were based on bring your own sound system. You stand up around your sound system and you compete.
Yeah.
That's what you do, right? And Sound Clash was judged not only on speech, not only on quality of music, but it was also judged on quality of sound system.
How loud you were compared to the next
How loud
sound.
and how quality bass line you can play and how clear your top end and all of this stuff was. So this is the tradition. It wasn't only about the dub plates that you can play in the 45s. It was a lot to do with the physical sound system. So when you went to these these early sound clashes, people were coming in with their physical systems. We came in as youth that wanted to see something different, and we had different ideals, and we wanted it to more, appeal to our generation. So we changed it. We put the selectors on stages. We put, lights, camera, action, and we made it a Sound Clash stage show, which it never used to be.
Yeah.
So the fact that we made this change, not everyone from the traditional era would applaud you making the change into the new generation.
But it made it bigger.
Right? It made it bigger. It put it on a higher platform. But at the same time, those who are stuck inside the tradition will always find something wrong with it. But, the slogan that we have in life, it's simple. Evolve or dissolve. If the culture doesn't evolve, it is going to dissolve.
It will.
And every decade or so or 2 decades, you have to look at what you're doing and you have to look at it and say, how many new kids are coming in? How many youngsters are coming in? And if the youngsters are not coming in, then we have to figure out that, we got to get them in before it's too late to attract them. So, World Clash is now going through its second phase, right? And the second phase is a new phase that brings in new champions, new stars of the arena, and keeps the ball rolling, because you want to make sure that when you're in the audience, the person who's on stage is someone who's appealing and identifying to you.
Yes, not your parents.
If there is a 60-year-old person on stage, he could be the biggest superstar that you can think about. He's not going to appeal to someone who's 21 years old.
100%.
You know what I mean? So it's that time for the new stars, and it's that time for that new energy, and it's that time to give the sport, because we call it a sport because it's our sport.
Yeah.
When I say our, I mean Clash fans. It's time to give it a new energy.
And one thing I commend you for is something like just generally promoters of anything, whether it be Sound Clash or just regular parties. Promoters are not the face of things. Normally it's like the dance happens and then they kind of disappear. And over the years, you have been the face and you have faced everything. You have responded to everybody on social media. You have talked about it on the radio. You're not that promoter that just promotes the dance and nobody even knows who that guy is.
It's not by choice. It just, again, this is not something that I planned. It's not something where I got to say, I'm going to be a really big Sound Clash promoter. It just happened over a period of time where the more success we came with the Irish and Chin brand came more responsibility, and it became more exposure. And because I am someone that, bleeds the sport, it's what I do. I love it. You know what I mean? We've been able to be in that limelight for many years, and we're probably I guess the biggest company in that limelight. When you talk about Sound Clash Entertainment, it's hard not to say Irish and Chin.
You can't. I mean, even when you look at things now like the Red Bull Culture Clash, it's huge. But to me, there is no Red Bull Culture Clash without World Clash before it. It doesn't happen. That whole concept of how big the dubs are with these, top 40 artists and hip hop artists making dub plates. The first place I was hearing those things was the 90s and World Clash. Like, that's really what set the foundation for things like Red Bull to do that now.
And these things show you, right? It shows you how important our sound system culture is. Our culture, our Caribbean culture on a whole. If you take a look at what's going on in music, you see the sampling and the borrowing of Caribbean culture.
Yes.
It's no different in the sound system culture, right? You see where there's other, people, whether white, blue, black, green, that are now looking into the sound system culture and they're saying, how? This is a really good way to entertain people. It gets adrenaline running. It can really get the kids, hype. Now, in order to get the kids hype, you have to then package it in the way that it relates to them. So I then look at the Red Bull competition and I say, well, this is a great thing because it helps sound system culture. The only thing that I say every time I speak of the Red Bull culture is that I wish it gave more branding to Caribbean culture.
Yeah.
I wish it presented as, hey, this is what we're doing. And even though these are the biggest hip hop, artists doing dub plates, this is Caribbean culture at its best. You know what I mean? But as far as it, spearheading, Sound Clash in the new generation and stuff like that, it's a great thing. Sound Clash is probably the most enjoyable, energetic, exciting thing that you can experience in a dancehall culture.
It is.
It's not violent. It's just vibe. That's just what it is. It's vibe. It's where people make the music talk for themselves.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So instead of you being able to battle someone lyrically, of course there's someone who is the master of ceremony on the mic that kind of, directs the audience, but it's about making your music talk for you. It's about being able to be very spontaneous with your selection.
Yeah, and speech.
And speech. And it's all about igniting the crowd. One of the greatest things about the dancehall culture, the sound system culture, is that the judge is the people who pay their money to come in. You know what I mean?
It's not just a panel that may not even be representative of the crowd.
So when you come to a World Clash event or you go to a sound system event on a whole, when you pay that admission, you pay for the right to determine who you think should be the victor.
Yep.
And that's a great thing. So it always keeps the champion in the people's position, the people's hands. And it's a great thing. It's been 19 years, and I hope that we can get 19 more out of it. You know what I mean?
I definitely hope so. So I'm going to play a couple tunes. We're going to go to commercial break, come back with a couple more questions. But before I go play these tunes, tell me one time tomorrow where to get tickets, all of those details.
So listen, World Clash is coming to Canada for the first time in many, many years. It's the rise of new champions. Those of you who have never seen a Sound Clash, I definitely urge that you come into this this arena. It is the most energetic, entertaining thing that you could definitely, witness. It is sound systems, selectors, DJs, however you want to call them, battling with music for the ultimate prize, which is the World Clash trophy, which for many of you is equivalent to the Grammy. So think about how many people make music, battle, for the right to be able to say, I am a Grammy winner. That's what we're doing inside Toronto, Canada tomorrow. It's all taking place at the Empire Banquet Suite, and you guys can get your tickets on irishandchin.com. 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 You definitely don't want to miss this one. When we come back from the break, I guess we can talk about the format of World Clash.
Yes.
and how this thing is really, gonna make history tomorrow inside the Toronto community.
For sure. So everybody keep it locked right now. The Facebook live feed is facebook.com/Marxman the DJ live with the Planet X Wake Up Show on Vibe 105. We're going to talk back to Chin in just a few minutes.
Alone now. Turn off the immediate sound. Over this up. Idiot sound. Over this up. Them idiot sound. Sound they are not threat. Them sound they are not threat. Them sound as if they higher than listen me cassette. Them sound they are not threat. Them sound they are not threat. Them sound as if they higher than listen me cassette. Turn off them idiot sound. Over this up. Them idiot sound. Over this up. Them jump and sound.
When I play, you out you want sound clash. Buck up the champion tonight till they flop. Now we are gonna murder you.
Like you buck up in a lead.
Man a shout and woman a cry. Shouting out a old band sound die. And now we are gonna bury you.
Bye, bye, bye.
Rude boy bun sensey, we no smoke Mataran.
No.
Baby shoulda in a clip when ma do a dance. And now we are gonna murder you. All of the massive just put up on a hand. Bust too blank to the number one sound. And now we are gonna bury them. Watch this. Hey, Mr. Undertaker, build them a coffin. Whoa, no, 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 my mistake. Make that two. Say one for the selector, one for them owner. Lordy, lordy. Can't you see that my sound is taking over, taking over?
Tell me say one thing Nancy can't understand. One thing Nancy can't understand. What make them a talk about me ambition? Say what make them a talk about me ambition? Come and say some of them a ask me where me get it from. Say some of them a ask me where me get it from. I told them no no it's from creation. I told them no no it's from creation. Bam bam hey yo, what a bam 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 dilang bam 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 dilang bam bam hey what a bam bam ta what a bam bam. This woman never trouble no one. I'm a lady, I'm not a man. MC is my ambition. I come free nice up Jamaican. So bam bam ta what a bam 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 dilang bam 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 dilang bam.
Yeah, Lord of mercy. Come it's a special dedication to all farmer. Whether you live a sentence or in a Nova. Cause this is Mr. Cat the Beer Back Rider. The style when me a go get them a go run Jamaica. And in a London I me say in America. And in a Canada I me say in a China. It name the Vinaya style, it's wicked and wild. The Vinaya style, it's wicked and wild. They want 4% with animal party. And they want 4% with you.
No respect, disrespect in all aspects. Someone don't know who them are dealing. They have to stop and check. Sky, are you? All the respect them eyes so book. Like a flag, hear me now. Some bounty, dig it way. No respect, disrespect in all aspects. Someone don't know who them are deal with. Them to stop and check. No respect, disrespect in all aspects. Someone don't know who them are deal with. Them to stop and check. Go on them. How we got here, don't know life for who don't know. When you know a sleep, we have patrol out and do life saver. How we protect who no life for who don't know. When you know a sleep, we have patrol. I am me boss, me own big man, me run me own show. I mean no response to story. Or if me did know, go like a lasta in the time of snow. When me chat, me no get up in no back and belly rat. Take off your inner mail, you have to stitch it up back to you. Flex like your wicked yet you wasn't in top. You are powder your face and left your head back fool. Watch your speech, I know your chant. You are itch and you are scratch. You must have that apparent show. How we
murderation, people have lost without a cause. We don't make with the arm. Murderation, every time people have left behind a big crime gun to get up on the front line of KG9 set. Yeah, I got you spy that feed, I cap a shot in at them heart. Or in at them, are you wicked man say? And you a spy your feed, I with no explanation. Don't ask me why it's like in fact.
So hold on, Chin, before I go to commercial break. I see you bopping your head. Hard question right now. In terms of dancehall artists, singers, DJs, who would you say, who's the first name to come to your head that like is the hardest dub plate cutter ever?
Bounty.
Bounty has to be the warlord.
Bounty definitely has this presence in sound system culture that you cannot deny. Bounty Killer, you know, he is the go-to man. And other than Bounty, I would want to say Buja Banton.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're a sound man, you're gonna go for those two artists to have in your dub plate collection.
It just always brings out a reaction, and that's what Sound Clash is all about.
Yes, it's about that reaction. It's about being able to play the go-to artist at the right time and on the right rhythms. And listen, this thing it's an art form that it's undeniable, you know. And again, when we start to see other genres step in and start to kind of emulate it and put their own twist to it, you definitely know that we are on to something really, really good. Sound system culture, people, it's definitely something that you definitely want to be a part of. The banquet hall tomorrow, Empire, right? World Clash comes to Canada, and
you don't have to drive 9 hours like I had to.
Yeah,
it's right here.
Well, think about it, right? Because
and it was worth it. It was worth it to drive that 9 hours.
But think about it. You know, Canadians now don't have to drive 9 hours because you have people coming in from New York.
Yeah.
Right? And they're making
that.
They're making that drive. You know what I mean? And it's a great, crazy thing because it's the first time in a very long time under the World Clash brand that we're starting to feel back that same energy that we used to have, where people are willing to jump on a plane, people are willing to drive, people just have to be in the building to witness it for themselves. It's a birth of a new age in sound system culture, and it's called the Rise of New Champions. World Clash 2017. Toronto, thanks for having us, and hopefully all of you will be in the building tomorrow.
Definitely. It's going to be a big deal. Let me head to a commercial break. Coming back on the other side, we're going to talk more about Sound Clash and World Clash going on tomorrow.
Wake up, wake up. Marxman and the Planet X crew are on the radio. Wake up. Keep it locked, keep it locked, keep it right here on 5105.
We are back with CEO of Irish and Chin, the biggest Sound Clash promoter on the entire planet.
Cheers!
Yeah, it's real talk, real talk. Now, I have a question that I've always wondered myself. There came a point when you said that as it was at that time, you were taking a break from World Clash.
Yes.
What led to that?
That was a time where I wanted to do different things. I'm one of those persons that like to feel challenged. Mm-hmm. I like to make sure that I am at my best. And being at my best usually is something that is extremely challenging for me. In 2007, we decided that after 10 years of doing World Clash in New York City, we were going to do what we call game over.
Okay.
Right? And just to take a pause from the monotony that was happening in the arena. At that time, we saw where, you know, some of the sound systems were getting real dominant. You know, we were creating superstars on the World Clash stage, but we were not finding new talent. You know, so it was like the same superstars competing over and over. Kind of like the story has already been written. Everyone knows the ending. So why should I be interested type situation? Yeah. So we decided that, okay, 10 years, there's been no event of this magnitude that got a good 10-year run. Let's stop the event before people walk into the venue and say, wow, I remember when it used to be Ram over there. I remember when it used to be Ram over there. So it was our way of trying to end on a high note, right? Because up until that time, no one could ever say that World Clash had a bad turnout. World Clash was always a full-packed venue, right? So we did that in New York. And then we also decided to go to Jamaica and do it as well, because at the time we also had World Clash Jamaica. So we bought the Jamaica brand, which was called Debt Before Dishonor, all the way till 10 installments as well, right? Okay. And on the 10th anniversary, we called that one the Final Battle, and then we, discontinued that as well. After that, we used the company to go into different things. I started doing management, right? Went into artist management.
That's how we met, actually, when I booked Mighty Crown for you.
Yes, went into artist management. We also went into doing theater, which is also a very huge part of Jamaican culture, roots theater. But during that time, it was a thinking time for me. And at the same time, it was a time where Clash fans started to say, well, maybe what Chin was doing wasn't that bad, because now that we don't have the Irish and Chin brand, we're not getting the events that we would like to get. I started getting calls from the major sound teams now who were saying, we need back World Clash. We need World Clash. World Clash is that gas in the tank that we need to always have. We're operating on E.
I smiled when you said that because when I wrote the question, I didn't really think back. But now that you say that, that is exactly what I thought would have happened. Because of the amount of flack and the things that people were going on with, it's like, okay, well, let's see how it is without.
Let's see what you guys can do. And it wasn't something deliberate. It was something that we did to protect the actual brand. You know what I mean? And sometimes you need times to think. You know, being able to keep stagings of this World Clash competition year after year after year for 10 years, sometimes it becomes really challenging because, you know, the sounds are not up to par every year, and it only makes logical sense. So one year someone will take off or maybe not have a good run as he should, but you're depending on that person's performance throughout the year to be able to put him on the world-class stage. So it became so challenging to put the lineups together. The dub plates started to get so expensive,
which is still the case.
Which is still the case. That probably won't change. And because the dub plates were getting expensive, the sound systems were demanding a lot more, you know, to be compensated to perform. And we were like, yo, you know what? This is going to be headed down a brick wall. Now, at that time that we were doing it, we were only using hardcore sound systems, sound class sound systems.
Bass Odyssey,
Mighty Crown, Jaro, you know, all of the
Mataran,
Black Cat, you know, Mataran and so forth, right? So during that break, another ideal came up. And that ideal became like the second phase of World Clash, where we said, you know what? Let's get back into this thing, but let's do it smart. We want to bring a different vibe to the competition. So let's see if we can add juggling sounds to the competition.
Okay.
Right? Because for those of you who don't know, there are sound systems in our culture that only compete. And there are some that only play music as in parties, right? None to be valued more than the other, but it's just what the industry has been. There are some who just compete. That's their job. That's what they do. And there's others who just, you know, play at parties, right? So it's been this unwritten rule in the Sound Clash arena that the party players stay in their lane. They don't come in the hardcore lane, because this is the you know, the hardcore lane. This is the bad boy lane, you know, musically speaking, right? And you guys are just juggling. And we had this vision to bring everybody on one stage. For many years, the sound system culture has been divided. It's been dividing into two groups, two classrooms. Those who want to be labeled as Sound Clash hardcore sounds, and those who want to just be labeled as, you know, juggling sounds. So for you to be able to relate to what I'm saying, and if you know about sound system culture, you would then say the Stone Love section and the Kilimanjaro section. Okay. Right? You know,
does a good comparison.
That's just what it has been over the years. And I came up with this slogan called Reset. And it's an acronym. And the acronym is Restoring Exciting Sound System Entertainment Together. Right? And that restoring together meant that take the wall down and bring everybody on one platform. The juggling sounds have something to bring to the world-class stage as well, because there's an art in juggling as well as there's an art in sound clashing, right? So the first year we brought, I think it was Radigan to the stage, and I don't remember who else was the stage, but that was the first of the Reset campaign. It worked well. David Radigan, for the first time in his life, at the age of probably 60-something, won the World Clash title and brought it back home to England.
Amazing, I remember
right?
that,
It was huge for the culture. But then the year after, right, we pushed the envelope a little bit further, and we brought in Renaissance, who is a complete juggling uptown sound. And we also brought in Sky Juice, Metro Media, who predominantly juggles, right? And I got so much slack for doing that, because people are like, Chin is messing up the industry. Oh, here Chin goes again.
And
with
then
his foolishness, right? And Sky Juice is gonna drop out first, and Jazzy T is not even gonna make it to the first round. It's what they were, you know, what was the predictions. When the smoke cleared, Jazzy destroyed the place with Renaissance, destroyed that Jazzy T and Delano, and Sky Juice went home with the world title. Of course, now putting greater trust into our judgment of where the Sound Clash culture has to go, right? And it opened a new wall, or a new door, I should say, and broke down the wall. So I stood outside while everyone was leaving the Amazura venue, and I heard people saying, wow, this was the most entertaining World Clash that we've been to in so many years, which made me feel really good, right? Because the jugglers bring a different form, of entertainment.
Their job is to make people dance, and then when you combine that with the sound clash mentality, which is something that I think Mighty Crown does. I told him that from the beginning.
Yes.
It brings a different energy when you're mixing on beats, and you kind of know that vibe of how to bust a party. You can bust a clash as well.
Right. And again, it's just been that way in our culture where, the hardcore is the hardcore and the juggling is the juggling, and it just doesn't intertwine, right? Which kind of brings us to where we are now, right? We spoke about the dub plate prices, and I decided that, listen, we have to do something, because after Game Over, going back into the arena and having people being challenged by competing because of the price of dubs, we have to try to fix that. So we reintroduced 45s.
Okay.
Regular recordings that's not dub plates. Now, for again, those of you, I know this is a wide audience, so those of you, there's a difference between a dub plate and there's a difference between a 45. If you take your most popular song, whatever your most popular song would be, right, you use that popular song to praise Marxman. So whatever your song would be, it would be Marxman.
Yeah.
That's what a dub plate is, right? Dub plate is what we call station identification. It's like an advertisement for the DJ who's playing, the personality who's playing. And then a 45 is just the regular song that you hear every day when you turn on the radio, the original version of the song, right? How were these songs made? Well, Marxman would have to then get a artist, whether you talk them into it or you pay them to go into the studio and personalize their original recording to fit your needs, right? So we are now trying to introduce 45s back into the clashes.
Okay.
One, to bring down the price of it that it costs to compete.
Which needs to happen.
Right? Which really needs to happen, right? And two, is because it breaks the monotony of hearing dub plates all night. Right? And it is harder in a sound clash to get a forward from a 45 than it is for a dub. I can walk into a studio and I could say to Bounty Killer, Bounty, I need you to say this, that. And when I play it at the right time in a dance, it will ignite the crowd.
Because they never heard it before.
They never heard it before. Or it's saying something that relates to something that they know. With 45s, it's different. The 45 is made.
Predictable.
Yes, it's made. So you got to find the right 45 that fits this situation. And there's a lot more creativity that goes into dropping a 45 in a sound clash, right? Because it's the ultimate risk. You can do it and you can be eliminated right away.
Yeah. Or
you can do it and you can get a lot of praises for it, right? So we introduced that back into the clash. Now, in the early days when we were speaking earlier, at the beginning of the show, 45s were a part of sound clash. It was what it was before the dub plate culture, and during the dub plate culture it was 45s and dubs. So we're reintroducing that, right, and leveling the playing field. But in addition to that, World Clash is now in a great phase, and it's in a great place. It's in a rebranding, a rebuilding, a re-energizing phase where we are now looking at everyone and saying, if you were a World Clash recipient during the last decade or so, you are no longer able to become a world contender right now. The focus of the competition has now been shifted to giving the platform to upcoming sound teams, right? We want to get new stars and we want to get new artists. If you look at any musical genre, it's not stuck with a certain group of, to our kids now, Jay-Z is an old school rapper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We relate to him and it's like, okay, cool. But there's so many young rappers who are now
coming in,
have that focus more than Jay-Z. You know what I mean? If we look at it, even in our thing, Bounty Killer and Beanie Man, to these new people, they're into Alkaline and Idonia, and it keeps moving.
Yeah.
So
it needs to.
And we needed to keep moving, because when we were growing up, we didn't want to listen to our parents' music as well.
Yeah.
Right? But now we're expecting the industry to listen to our music, and we now their parents. So with that being said, we want the generation to go on for another 10 years. And in doing so, the best way to do so is to then introduce new talent and kind of force the audience to accept such new talent. Because if it was up to some of the die-hearted World Clash fans,
Mighty Crown,
they want to see
Odyssey, same lineup over and
over again, right?
And they were great.
And they were great. But at the same time, and then when you drop the World Clash flyer, you have those people who will be like, yo, them man, you can't do nothing new, man. Every year the same thing. And then when you do something different, they say, yo, me don't know none of them, man. Yeah. So you can't win. It's just what it is, right? So we came up with this new slogan under the Reset acronym, that is the rise of new champions.
Okay.
And it's basically this. We are now keeping preliminary national championships throughout the world, which is a huge thing for us with the World Clash brand, right? So we go to England, we get the top sound boys in England, right? And they compete. When they win, or whoever wins becomes the national champion of the UK.
Okay.
And they earn their right to go to the World Clash stage. We do that in Europe. We do that in the UK. Yes, I know that UK is part of Europe, but for somewhat,
there's a lot of sounds.
There's a lot of
that,
difference, right? Right now, we do it in America. We do it here in Canada. We do it in Japan.
Yes.
We're also doing it in the Caribbean, right? So ultimately, we'll have 7 national champions competing at World Clash, the Grammy stage, for the international championship. How does this help sound system culture? It helps it this way. Once upon a time, there was only one award celebrated every year, which was the World Clash title. So only one sound system had the ultimate bragging rights.
Yes.
Now, the way it is structured, 7 sound systems have bragging rights, because even if you go to World Clash and you lose, King Atani will still be the 2017 Canadian champion.
You still have a title under your belt.
You still have that
You
title
weren't
under
just
your
chosen
belt.
randomly.
Right, so you're not now cutting dubs, and you're not, being a sound boy for wasting your time. You're now starting to build that trophy case to say, okay, this is where all of my time and my, my money and my time away from my family is being spent. These are my accolades, right? So this is what it's being done for. It's being done to have the industry celebrate more champions at one time. So now we're up to 6 or 7 or 8 yearly champions that the industry has to now celebrate and give them their credentials.
Brings attention to all of those sounds.
It brings
all
attention
year.
to all of those sounds and give them bragging rights for the whole year. Now, with the Rumble series, which we refer to as the Road to World Clash, if you win your Rumble, you go to World Clash. If you go to World Clash and you lose, you're still the Canadian champion. You're still the US champion. You're still the Caribbean champion. You're still the UK champion. So what that means is next year, you still go back to the national championship competition and defend your title.
I have another chance.
If you lose, then you're off grid. If you win, you go right back to the World Clash and defend your country's honor again.
Okay.
Right? Now, if you win the World Clash, you become the national champion. You become the international champion. So now, just like King Turbo.
Guaranteed.
King Turbo won 2016 US Rumble, Canadian Rumble. And then they won the title, the world title. So they were double winners in a year, which is the ultimate prize right there, right? If you win the World Clash competition, right, you get the title, you get the bragging rights. You also earn the right to then bring World Clash to your country.
Okay.
Which is a huge move.
Which is how it ends up in Toronto.
This is how
year.
it ended up in Toronto, Canada, right? 2016, King Turbo, the Canadian champions, won, which brought it here 2017. So now you're having this patriotism that is coming into the World Clash arena, because everyone who's looking internationally in on this thing wants the World Clash, the brand that everybody's known for so many years, to come to their hometown and be hosted. So if you've never got a chance to see World Clash in New York or see it in Jamaica, guess what? Now it is coming to your town, right in your backyard. And you're gonna have 2 sound systems in the competition, and the challenge then is to keep it in your backyard.
For sure.
You know what I mean? In addition to all of that, there is a clash that is called the Clash at Sea. That is hosted by Damien Jr. Gong Marley.
So entertaining. Last year was one of the most entertaining clashes I've ever seen in my life.
We were able to come to a partnership with Junior Gong, which allows placement for the World Clash winner to get on that cruise clash. So it's called the Clash at Sea. So last year, King Turbo was at the Clash at Sea.
Yes.
Right? This year, the competition is Mighty Crown, who's the 2-time defending champion. I'm proud to say that. Tony Mataran.
He's back again.
And David Rodigan, which is huge.
That's big.
Right?
That's big on its own.
It took a lot of talking to get David Rodigan in, right? And the 4th sound system will be the winner of the 2017 World Clash Award.
So that's
right?
That's world famous sounds on stage.
This is huge, because if you look at where we're going with this, and we're referring it to as a league because it is a league. If you look at where we're going with this, sound systems now have a purpose and a reason. There's a finish line, right? So before we were just doing this thing as a hobby. Irish and Chin and World Clash is now saying, listen, it doesn't have to be a hobby anymore. You can become a world-renowned selector or sound team by entering this competition from the grassroots. Of course, would be entering the Rumble. And this is where you end up.
You're building new champions.
You're building new champions, and you're building an identity for not only yourself and your sound team, but for your country's dance hall sound system culture. You know? People are now looking forward to fly in and drive in to Canada because King Turbo brought it back home. This is what it's all about. The rise of new champions, bringing new people to the platform and becoming the stars of tomorrow. So even though we're hung up on the Sammy T's and Simons, you know, even though we're hung up on the Squingies and the DJ Marks, the Panthers and the Lynxes and the Troopers, it's kind of time for new guys, because these guys they've been at the head of their game for 15, 16, 17 years.
Yeah.
It's time to, pass the torch. So this is what we're doing, of course, and this is the purpose of being in Toronto, Canada. It is, I'm advocating for sound system culture, as many of you should be. It is the indigenous culture of our Jamaican and Caribbean heritage. When we speak about music, we have to speak about sound system culture. Coming out of the Caribbean, it goes hand in hand. This is not a Jamaican thing. It's not a Trinidadian thing. It's not an Antiguan thing. It's not a Grenadian thing. It's not a Guyanese thing. It's a Caribbean thing. This is our culture, right? Hip hop comes from the basis of this culture.
It does.
Whether they want to admit it or not, this is where it comes from, And we have to keep it alive, because if we don't keep it alive, it's going to be taken away from us.
What's the breakdown for the Clash tomorrow, round by round?
The Clash tomorrow is absolutely going to be bananas, and it's a simple format, right? First round. All rounds are 10 minutes in the Clash. Every single round is a 10-minute round. The first round, people get to kind of feel out the audience. It starts at 10 o'clock, by the way, so you need to be in the venue from probably about 9 o'clock, right? We're open the gates early, so get there early. 10 o'clock, 10 minutes each sound, about 7 sounds play, no elimination. So it's that pass, that warm-up round for you to feel out your crowd and, get some early people on your side. Second round is also 10 minutes. One sound system is eliminated, right? During these whole rounds, you're able to play 45 and dub plate mixtures, right? If you want to play 90% 45s and 10% dub plates and you feel that you can get away with it, be my guest. If you don't want to play any 45s, be my guest, right? As the night goes through, so a sound is dropped every round. So third round, another sound is eliminated.
Okay.
Fourth round, another sound is eliminated. Fifth round, another sound is eliminated. Now, the competition starts to get very extremely competitive when there's 3 sounds left on the stage. That round is what we call the 45 shop lock round.
Okay. Which
means no more 45s can be played in the competition.
Just dub plates.
It has to be just strictly dub plates. So if you make it to that point, you're almost on your way to the finish line, right? 3 sounds compete in that. 1 sound system is eliminated at the end of that round. Then it's the face-off, because now you're at you're right at the finish line. This is the final bout.
Best part of the Clash.
Where the 2 remaining sound systems get to face off in what we refer to in the industry as tune for tune, which simply means song for song. Right? So instead of one sound playing 10 minutes, another sound playing 10 minutes, you have to answer your opponent immediately. So he plays, you play. He plays, you play. He plays, you play. And at the end of the night, the person scoring the most points in that segment, the first one, because it's a best of 10.
Yes.
Right? Wins the competition, and they are crowned the 2017 world champion. They're on their way to the Jamrock Clash Cruise at Sea.
Wicked.
And World Clash will be on the way to their country.
Nice.
So it's interesting to see if it's going to stay here in Canada.
I hope
if it's
so.
going to go back to America. If it's going to go to Japan. If it's going to go to the UK. If it's going to go to Europe. It's very, very interesting. Those of you who are listening to my voice that may be watching on social media, Facebook and so forth, if you're not in Toronto and you want to be in the building, you can get your eyes in the building. If you can't get your ears in the building, or your physical body in the building, I should say, by going to irishandchin.com and buying the pay-per-view stream. Right? It's the first time ever we are doing a pay-per-view for World Clash.
We've never done that before.
We've never done it before. But we feel so strongly about this new direction. And in order to make this thing work the way that we want it to work, we have to pull out everything and get everyone
to be
involved.
available worldwide.
It has to be available worldwide. And to be honest with you, surprising to many of us on the Irish and Chin team, there is a worldwide interest.
There is. There always
Everyone
has
is
been.
talking about this. It's a worldwide interest, right? Hotels are booked out. People are renting cars, tickets, everything. People are on their way to Toronto.
And you can purchase your tickets at irishandchin.com
You
as
can
well.
purchase your tickets at irishandchin.com and get your tickets, or you can buy your tickets at the door. It is definitely going to be a phenomenal event. Hope to see you guys there as we transform Toronto for one night into the city of world clash. You know what I mean? It's definitely going to be a really great experience.
Chin, honestly, it has been a pleasure. I went from a kid, wanted to be a DJ, and I used to listen. I've never wanted to be a Clash DJ because, quite honestly, I can't take somebody cussing at me all night. But I've listened to Sound Clash for so many years, and you've been such a big part of that. And I've had a lot of people on the show, virtually every soca artist you could think of, a whole heap of reggae artists, dancehall artists. I don't think I've ever prepared for an interview as much as I did for this one.
Wow, thanks a lot,
because
man.
you're an important person to my career and Sound Clash in general, and it's really been a privilege and an honor to sit down with you today.
Thank you, man, and definitely got to say congratulations on your 15th. I heard about
Thank
it.
you.
15 years is definitely, we're all soldiers of the sound system culture. That's what it is. From you are a sound man. There's no more value of being a class selector or being a juggling selector. We're all fighting for a culture. So to be doing it for 15 years and holding up the banner and then also playing on radio, because this is what a lot of people don't understand. We know the music. We're sound boys. It's our job to present that music because we know the pulse of the people in the streets.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So when I see sound people get to go on radio and also, become radio personalities, is a great thing for our sound system culture, and it solidifies our importance in, preserving and presenting the music.
That is the whole reason I do this show, is to spread music and spread
Yes.
knowledge and spread everything.
Yes. So
it is our job.
So again, big up to all the sound men, worldwide. Big up to all the sounds in Canada. Big up to Roots, man. Big up to big up to all the sound systems. So super fresh, all of the sound systems here in, and also you guys have a Rebel Tone, which was a World Clash winner as well. So big them up. You have one of the biggest female art selectors, Tasha Roses.
Big up
you know
Outkast.
what I mean? Big Outkast. There's so many sound systems that, and if I forget your name, or it's just because it's so early in the morning. But listen, man, big up to all sound systems here in Canada who have kept the culture going, because if you guys didn't keep the culture going, there would be no reason for us to bring World Clash here. There would be no reason for us to be having these conversations, right? So big up to all sound soldiers, men and women, that have been keeping this thing going, and big up to those of you worldwide, man. This is a very important part of the culture, and we have to keep the fight going, because if we don't keep the fight going, we're going to lose the culture, and we're going to get up tomorrow morning and someone else is going to be calling themselves a sound boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we definitely have to, keep it going. I have to big up to Jill and Randy and also Scully for, beating the streets and, setting the pace for us to come in. And it's not only about us.
Yeah, they've been
You know what I
working.
mean?
They've been working.
And, we couldn't do it from where we are, right?
Yeah.
So gotta big them up for keeping the streets, painted with World Clash, and everybody's talking about World Clash, and it's not only because of us. They played a very important role as well. So big up to everyone. Big up to yourself, of course,
Thank
that's
you
been
very
beating
much.
it up on the radio and, helping us get this vision out there. You know what I mean? And,
It's about the culture.
It's
really
about the culture. And when it comes to the culture, because I know we spoke earlier about the things that I had to go through and the social media word throwing and all of the stuff that has happened, I feel good about that in a very bad way. In a crazy way, I feel good about it because it's part of our culture. West Indian people we're not people that just gravitate to anything that's given to us. We're gonna challenge it. We're gonna want to know whether it's the right thing or it's the wrong thing. And even if we're right or we're wrong, we're gonna voice our opinion, and we're gonna be wrong and strong if that's what it takes. You know what I mean? So it's part of our competitive cultural nature, and it brews that controversy that is needed to sell the next Sound Clash. You know what I mean? So it's a great thing, and I always say this, man. Even if we don't agree, right? Because there's a lot of us that don't agree and we don't get along, but we're all fighting for the same thing. And that's the uplifting of the sound system culture. And from we're fighting for the sound system culture, we're friends in a crazy way.
Yeah.
You know
for
what I
sure.
mean?
It's the same cause.
We're comrades in a crazy way. We don't have to talk on the phone. We don't have to speak to each other when we see each other, but we're all fighting for the same thing. And you're going to see when you get down to World Clash how many sound men that's not on the bill that is actually going to be in attendance to help to usher in the new champion of tomorrow, the new champions of tomorrow. So thank you so much for having me on your show. And again, 15 years, man. Thank you for what you have been doing for the community here in Canada. And big up to everybody who's been supporting the Irish and Chin brand. And furthermore, big up to my Irish and Chin team, because it's not me. You know what I mean? It's not me. I can't do it by myself. For 20 years, there have been so much people who has been paid contributions and helped us.
Thank you very much, Chin. Big up yourself. Everybody else on the outside, irishandchin.com to get tickets for World Clash tomorrow. And of course, if you're out of town listening right now, you can also purchase the pay-per-view. We got to get up out of here on behalf of the Planet X Wake Up Show. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you same time, same place next week, Friday, 7 to 10 as we start your weekend. Big up to Nads, Caribbean Weekly. Amir B, we are out.
War, yeah. War, yeah. And a mercy. If a war would no war make it start. If somebody not dead for me gonna pop off. Man a big bad man a take a farmer talk. You know me. If a war would no war make it start. If somebody not dead for me gonna pop off. If you're this bad man we put you back in on the past. Hey boy no say nothing. Else one more word and the show get forgotten. For you
Get it poppin'.
All my favorite songs.
All morning. Get it poppin'. 5:05.